this thin part of the temporal bone called squamous part, or that lateral border connects with squamous part of the temporal bone and because called temporal border, squamous border. Understand? Next, the angles. Anterior angle, frontal, posterior angle, occipital, but it has two lateral angles also, which this is this one, anterior lateral, and this one, posterior lateral. The anterior lateral connects with other bone of the skull, which called sphenoid bone, and because it's called sphenoid angle, this angle connects with this structure, which has special name mastoid process, and the name of this angle is mastoid angle. Understand? New terms. Next, on the external side surface of the parietal bone, look at this line, is temporal line for attachment of temporal muscle. And if you take inner side, this is sagittal border, yes? Along of the sagittal border, each parietal bone has half of the sulcus. Shape of sulcus is groove is what? If you cut the canal, you can see sulcus, yes? But that sulcus cut half of sulcus located on the right parietal bone, second half on the left parietal bone. After the connection together, they forms one whole sulcus along of the sagittal border, which called so groove for superior sagittal sinus. I'm said this term together with frontal bone, yes? Or that means groove for superior sagittal sinus starts on the squamous part of the frontal bone, continues along of parietal bones, and it finishes on the occipital bone. Totally passes in the middle of the skull cap. Along of sagittal suture, yes, but sagittal suture is only portion, front and back also. Understand? Finishes parietal. Third bone, back side, posterior end of the skull is formed by the occipital bone. Look, this is occipital anterior border. Why I show this line? Totally, this is not occipital bone. No, this is different bone. This is occipital bone. Understand? Next, laterally here, these parts, not these parts. These are temporal bones. These. Posteriorly, this. Look at the shape. Occipital inner side, and this will be external side. Anteriorly, it finishes here. Laterally, border passes so. This is without this. Occipital bone. The occipital bone has one big foramen, which has special name, foramen magnum. Magnum, great hard foramen, magnum. This is foramen, what we have below. Vertebral canal, inside of which is spinal cord. That spinal cord finishes upward, how it finishes? Continues into the brain. Understand? Where the spinal cord continues into the brain, level, level by the bones between spinal cord and brain is foramen magnum. And inside you have spinal cord don't cuts or don't finishes, it continues into the brain. Next, main parts of the occipital bone located around of the foramen magnum. This is anterior part, because normal position is so. Yes? Basilar part of the occipital bone. are lateral parts of the occipital bone. And this will be which part?
Internal.
Internal.
Squamous part of the occipital bone. Flat, thin portions of bones called squamous part. Frontal bone also has squamous part. Yes? Next, about each of them. First part is basilar part, which has two sides, internal, external. The basilar part of the occipital bone connects with sphenoid bone, and together they forms the portion of whole skull, this part, which has special name, clivus or clivus, how you want, where is located medulla oblongata, first part of the brain. On finished internal side, external side of the basilar part, this is, yes? On the external surface, basilar part has pharyngeal tubercle. Why? Because maybe you know we have organ pharynx for transmission of food, and at the same time it transmits air also, which starts from here. This is tube which starts from here down. Finishes the basilar part. Lateral parts of the occipital bone, inner side. Elevations present, which called jugular tubercle. Separated occipital bone has jugular notch. Who take the occipital bone? This is jugular tubercle. This is jugular notch. But on the whole skull, we have jugular foramen. This is whole, yes, this is not notch, whole, which is formed how? By the connection, after the connection of occipital, when occipital bone connects with temporal bone, the notches forms foramen, like intervertebral foramens, which are formed by the superior and inferior vertebral notches. If you explain separately occipital bone, you will tell so, occipital bone has jugular notch. But if I ask you which foramen is this, you must tell so, it is jugular foramen. Understand? Under the jugular tubercle below, there is canal. Which called hypoglossal canal. You can see hypoglossal canal from inner side, from outside also. Why? Look here, the skull has many foramens, many canals, many fissures. Why? Because skull totally is closed. Inside we have brain. That brain needed blood supply, arteries and veins, which starts outside of the skull. They must enter the skull for blood supply, yes? But the brain, at the same time, the brain gives cranial nerves also, which starts from the brain. They must leave the skull and passes to the innervated organs, different parts of the body. Understand? Some holes transmits arteries from outside inside, or veins from inside outside, or nerves from inner side outside, generally. Understand? Hypoglossal canal is for transmission of hypoglossal nerve, which is cranial. Totally brain gives 12 pairs of cranial nerves. 12 paired cranial nerve called hypoglossal nerve. This nerve leaves skull through the hypoglossal canal, passes out. Finishes which side of the occipital bone? Which part? Which part? Which surface of the lateral part? Internal. Internal. External side. Here. Visible very good articular surfaces. Condyles. For what?
With the first vertebra.
With atlas. behind depression, condylar fossa. And this is plastic and here is not, but here must be foramen, condylar foramen. Condyles, condylar fossa, condylar foramen. Right, that's all. Lateral parts. Squamous part. Inner side, external side. In the middle of the internal surface is elevation which called internal occipital eminence or internal occipital protuberance or cruciate eminence. How you want. Cruciate eminence because look, some structures crosses. Yes? From the internal occipital eminence down to the foramen magnum passes internal occipital crest. Upward passes which groove? Groove for superior sagittal sinus. And laterally passes paired grooves for transverse sinus. This and this. Finishes internal. External surface of the squamous part. External occipital eminence, external occipital crest, and three pairs of lines. These. They called so inferior nuchal line, superior nuchal line, suprema nuchal line for attachment of ligaments and muscles. If you want, I can explain next one.
Even if we have to go home.